This is Carolina Ghost Towns, a podcast about the vanished towns and lost communities in South Carolina, North Carolina, and maybe a few other places. I'm your host, Tom Taylor. Last episode, we discussed Fort Mott, a British garrison located near the confluence of the Congaree and Wateree Rivers. This week, we head into the back country of South Carolina, deep into Cherokee lands. As I mentioned in the last episode, a backcountry fort wasn't always a large stockade. More often, it was a reinforced house where the settlers could take refuge. In times of conflict, ditches and other earthworks might be added. Today we take a look at another town that started out life as a fortification. This town, though, looks like it went through a transporter accident and was split into two individuals. Today, we take a look at the towns of Old Madison and New Madison, formerly known as Fort Madison. Now, this might be a shorter episode than usual. I've visited the Madison area many times on kayaking trips, but I've had a hard time finding any information about life in either Old or New Madison. It's a cool place and has one of the neatest waterfalls I've ever paddled to, so I'll share what I do know. As with so many of these towns, its history starts not with the European colonizers, but with the native inhabitants. Tugaloo was one of the lower Cherokee towns. Located on the Tugaloo River, it started as a Creek Indian settlement, but was taken over by the Cherokee. The word Tugaloo is thought to be a corruption of a Cherokee word that refers to a place at the fork of a stream. According to web commenter Richard Thornton, quote, Tugaloo was thoroughly excavated by University of Georgia archaeologist Dr. Joseph Caldwell in 1957. He found that Tugaloo was formed around 800 AD and occupied continuously by ancestors of the Creek Indians until around 1700 AD, when it was sacked and burned. Caldwell found that a small section of the southern end of the town was reoccupied in a few years by a cluster of crude, round huts. Close quote. By 1717, Theophilus Hastings operated a trading post at Tugaloo. In 1725, Colonel George Chicken visited the area and wrote in his journal that Tugaloo was, quote, the most ancient town in these parts, close quote. George Chicken also found himself in the middle of a conflict between the Creek and the Cherokee. He wrote in his journal that a meeting between the English, the Cherokees, and the Creeks was supposed to have taken place at Tugaloo, one of the lower towns of the Cherokees. When the Creeks arrived before the English, the Cherokees killed them. When the English learned of the attack, they, quote, set out as fast as they could for Tugaloo, and upon arriving, confirmed of 11 being killed, close quote. The English tried to avoid conflict with both groups. Chicken wrote in his journal that, quote, we have made peace with the Cherokees and expect the headmen of the Creeks to go down with us to the government in order to make peace, so that in all probability we shall have a peace with all of our Indians again in a little time, and our trade with them may flourish again as it has done in time past. Close quote. Sadly, the peace didn't last. By 1776, the Cherokee had been driven out from Tugaloo. And so, we come to Fort Madison, and the point where my research runs out. Robert Mills' 1825 atlas doesn't show Fort Madison. I checked other maps, and it isn't until the 1890s that it starts showing up. The first map had the town labeled as, quote, Madison or Fort Madison, close quote. I haven't been able to find any documentation of when the fort was built or how it came to be named Madison. News articles about the town start to show up after the Civil War. An 1877 article in the Tugaloo Courier described the opening of the new depot at Fort Madison.
A depot has been opened at Fort Madison on the plantation of Mr. James A. Doyle, on the Airline Railway near Tugaloo River. Mr. W. McWhorter is the agent. This will be a great accommodation to the people of the upper Tugaloo Valley and vicinity. We have no doubt a thriving town will be built up at Fort Madison at no distant day.
It was no distant day, but thriving is perhaps not the word I'd use. The following year, in July of 1878, the Tugaloo Courier reported that, quote, Fort Madison is being laid off into town lots, close quote. 4 years later, there was a hotel and several stores. The Tugaloo Courier reported the following.
It has been my pleasure recently to visit Fort Madison, and I am pleased to note the rapid and substantial growth of the town. There has been several new houses built, and others are under the way of construction. Among those completed is the Fort Madison Hotel, under the management of Mr. James Hull, who is glad to entertain the visitors of the town and the traveling public. Mr. Jiguiliat has a large storehouse under construction and expects soon to open out a large stock of goods. The population of the town now numbers over 30 souls, and 2 more families are expected soon to move in. Captain G.H. Green and Sons are enterprising gentlemen and are doing much to build up the town. They have built a neat residence and have a large steam sawmill in operation on the banks of the Tugaloo River, and have opened up a large lumber market and are buying various kinds of timber and floating it down the river to his mill. The citizens greatly desire a good school, which they will soon have in operation, as they have made arrangements for building a house.
1902 brought another glowing report.
The building of a new and pretty depot at Fort Madison by the Southern Railway seems to have infused new life into that city, and everyone seems to be waking up. The passerby would judge it to be an entirely new town by the number of new buildings that have gone up. Several new dwellings have been and are being built, and a new store or 2 are to be next week. And it is talked by some of the more progressive citizens that this is not the end of great things for Fort Madison.
The first post office was established in 1877. The post office and town were briefly renamed Cleveland, after Benjamin Cleveland, a Revolutionary soldier who fought at Kings Mountain. He, quote, became judge of the court. He grew to enormous proportions, reaching the weight of 450 pounds, and died in his chair, close quote, in 1806. Apparently he made an impression on the folks of Fort Madison. The name change didn't stick, though. People still called the town Fort Madison or just Madison. There was also the issue of another post office named Cleveland in Greenville County. The name reverted back to Fort Madison in 1892. In 1902, the town was officially chartered, and in 1904, the post office shortened its name to just Madison. Now we get to that transporter accident that split the town into two separate entities. Sometime prior to 1917, the Southern Railroad changed the route so that it bypassed Madison. It built a new depot along the new route, just a couple of miles from the old depot, and so New Madison was born. However, businesses had been established in the old location, so Old Madison continued as a separate town. Most of the news articles that I found were now about New Madison, but a few still referenced the old town. A 1920 Bradstreet report listed 4 general stores in the town and a population of 200. It just listed Madison and not new or old, so I don't know if that report was for one or for both of them. The town began its decline during the Great Depression. By 1942, Dun & Bradstreet only had 1 store listed for Madison, though its population was now 273. Eventually, Southern Railway closed its passenger depot at New Madison, and commerce and population started to decline further. While New Madison was declining, Old Madison was having a resurgence. US 123 was built through the old site and across the Tugaloo River, providing a quicker route from the upstate to Atlanta and other parts of Georgia. In the 1950s, construction began on the Lake Hartwell Dam on the Savannah River. The resulting reservoir would flood the Savannah, Seneca, and Tugaloo rivers. The lake's backwaters would reach all the way to Old Madison. Now, lake traffic, new lakeside housing, and conveniences for tourism drove growth in Old Madison. New Madison became the ghost town. Right about now, I'd tell you what can be found today in the ghost town. But in this case, I've got 2 towns. I'm going to go backwards and start with New Madison. Honestly, there's not much left. The Madison Post Office building is on the road that used to connect Old and New Madison. Say used to because the bridge over the railroad is out and hasn't been rebuilt. As for Old Madison, the historic Baptist church is still there. The Old Madison School was built in the 1920s and was only recently torn down. It last served as a fish camp restaurant before being abandoned. The convenience stores for lake visitors are more modern and are not really part of the old town. There are several other interesting historical sites in the area, though. The old steel trestle US 123 bridge has been converted to a fishing bridge, with the middle part removed. One part is accessible from the South Carolina side, and the other part is accessible from Stevens Creek Park on the Georgia side. North of the 123 bridge and the railroad trestle is a small round island in the middle of the lake. This is a mound built by the Creeks and site of the old Cherokee Tugaloo Town. The island is off limits, but you can paddle or boat around it. A historical marker on the Georgia side of the 123 bridge commemorates the site. While technically not a part of Madison, Travelers Rest Historic Site on the Georgia side of the Tugaloo is a restored stagecoach inn built in 1815. There are lots of exhibitions that give a taste of what life was like during that time. My favorite historical site in the region is the old Fountain Mill and Fountain Falls on Longnose Creek. The creek is just north of the Tugaloo Mound and enters the lake from the South Carolina side. A short paddle up the creek takes you to the ruins of the mill and the beautiful Fountain Falls, also known as Longnose Falls. It's one of my favorite paddling destinations and a beautiful place to visit. That's all for this episode of Carolina Ghost Towns. There will be photos of the area and links to the resources I used in the show notes. As always, recommend us to a friend and give the show a review. Thanks for listening.
In this southern ghost town, we found a story untold. In the shadows of the past, we unravel, secrets unfold. With each step we take, we journey back in time. In this southern ghost town, we leave our footprints behind.
Thanks for listening. The opening music was composed by Lex FM with additional music from Pixabay. The song Southern Ghost Town was generated by Suno AI. All other music was composed and recorded by me, Tom Taylor. Carolina Ghost Towns is a part of the Random Connections empire. It's pretty much a one-man show, so I wear all the hats, including producer, writer, researcher, sound engineer, publicist, and bartender. If you like the show, please subscribe on your favorite pod venue and be sure to give us feedback. If you have questions, comments, or ideas for the show, you can reach me at carolinaghosttownspod@gmail.com. For more information and show notes, visit randomconnections.com. Thank you.
In this southern ghost town, we found a story untold. In the shadows of the past, we unravel, secrets unfold. With each step we take, we journey back in time. In this southern ghost town, we leave our footprints behind.